Hi everyone and welcome to this week's episode of Fight Chat Friday from TKD Coach Academy. We're just back from the European Championships in Porec, Croatia, and today we're going to talk about some of the experiences at the tournament, review the predictions that we had for some of the divisions, and look at the overall results. So stay with us for this one.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Fight Chat Friday. So, as we said in the intro, we're going to go back over these predictions that we did last week before the Euros and see who had an absolute nightmare and got them all wrong and who nailed them. So, that's going to be what we're going to look at as well, and a little bit of review of the competition as an overall. So, I was watching from the live stream perspective, which with the scores was quite difficult as well because you don't know, you had to work off the sport data live actions, which was good and bad at the same time. So ideal to be there and watch it live. So it's nice to get two different perspectives as well, because when you're coaching, of course, you're busy and you're maybe in the moment and stuck in one ring. So it's nice to be able to float around as well and see what different people are up to.
Yeah, that's it, exactly. And, you know, you do, when you're looking after competitors, you do miss an awful lot of the competition. So you see what the few competitors that you've been chaperoning, you know, you see what they're doing and maybe a little bit of their division, and then you're out in the warm-up area or you're, you know, running between rings or whatever it happens to be, and you don't see, you don't get a good look at someone's progression through the round. So there's plenty of opportunity in the next few weeks to spend some time going back over the live streams and, you know, picking the key matches and looking for the exciting stuff. And so if people have any maybe recommendations for us matches we should go back and watch, divisions, we certainly have some thoughts ourselves. In fact, actually, Jamie was telling me to go back and watch the playoffs of the male special technique, senior male special technique. So I did that on Tuesday, and like, wow, fantastic, just an amazing standard. So, you know, depending on what you're into, you know, there's definitely going to be something by way of highlights in that. There's weeks of entertainment checking back over the competition. So take the time, do that, and if you see something that's really, really good, send it on to us for sure.
Yeah, so like talking about the standard, for me, it was quite high, quite strong. I think I think that the overall standard, again, that meta game we were speaking about before, it looks to be the entries in the sparring, getting into contact, seem to be still kind of veering towards that point fighting, slight bit of wacko, and then the big part then is having good intensity to carry that through and being able to pull off shots in flow and in combination. So you can see that all those shots are getting good entries, nice, good, clear shots, and then it's the people that are able to bring that in and make some shots off the flow are the people who are getting nice return.
Yeah, and I think with regard to that intensity, I think what we were seeing a little bit more is, particularly from the Slovenians, but some of the other countries as well, the Spanish too, that willingness to go off that shorter stance or shorten the stance on the way in. So, you know, we'd always say to people, you know, lift and go as the kind of the default with the front leg, just as Ziga and Blue did there. But we're seeing also the ability to, you know, disguise a shortening step and really put a lot of intensity and a lot of pressure on with the front leg is a big skill. So being that bit more aggressive, I think, and, you know, and really attacking with that lead shot, you know, we're seeing a little bit more of that. Obviously, this is nothing new. There's always been people who would do those things, but it's kind of a standout, you know, from this tournament for me.
Yeah, I think as well, we're still seeing the efficiency of that backhand entry, of countering with that backhand, and it's just so clear. And as well with the front leg hacks kick, and we see even with Ziga in the 63 division, he almost takes it more like a traditional Nerio Chagi, more less than the hacks. It's kind of more north to south.
Yeah, and I mean, I think one of the things that's worth talking about as well, you know, outside of the techniques that have been prevalent in the competition, a couple of quick things. Refereeing, there was a very concerted effort to have the referees intervene less. So where you might have had a warning and then nothing happened and continue, those were very rare, wasn't happening very much. And a lot of the less significant ones, the little things that have like clipped the backside or clipped the back of the shoulder, or people ending up in not in a clinch but, you know, chest to chest, were given an opportunity to resolve it for themselves before the referees were stepping in to break. So I think that led to much better flow across the competition as a whole and less prevalent refereeing. That said, we also had...
That kind of goes back then as well, Adrian, to what we said at the start, because that allows the opportunity for people to be able to score shots in combination and in flow, because for a while we were kind of worried that it was going to be pulled back to similar to point fighting, where it was 1 or 2 shots and it was being stopped. So that is kind of what we want. And for most people, they want the flow of the match to continue.
And even generally speaking, across most of the rings, with the exception of like 1 or 2 referees where they have from before, but they built up a little reputation over the course of the competition for being a bit free with the minus points for contact. In most of the rings, wasn't really an issue, and the matches flowed well even in terms of the contact, and that was really good to see. It is worth mentioning though that we do have a new concussion policy in place only since the last Euro, so this is in place for 6 months really, so this is only the second tournament with that in play, and we're noticing a little bit of an overlap with what's called T39 or Article 39 in the competition rules, where for anyone who's not completely au fait with the competition rules, what it says is, if you're negligently responsible for your opponent being unable to continue, you'll be disqualified. So paraphrasing, but that's the gist of it. So in other words, if I give Richie a good smack and because of that his nose is broken, he can't continue, I can be disqualified. So the action in itself should have merited a minus point. Okay, so either it's an illegal technique, so I kick him to the back or I do something like that, or it's something that has excessive contact to it, or I kick him when he's on the ground, something along those lines. If I do something like that, that would normally generate a foul, but the other person can't continue because of it, then, we have a disqualification. But it's starting to overlap.
Both people can't continue.
And it means both people can't continue, and you get an empty semi-final, which we got in the 70s, the 78s, and the 85s, so a little bit bizarre. But to kind of put that in context, the issue that we have is there's a new concussion policy which is there separate to the competition rules, but there to protect the competitors. So if there's a suspected concussion and there is a protocol that's followed, the competitor is withdrawn. And then the issue becomes, well, was the person who hit them negligently responsible for them getting the concussion and having to be withdrawn? So it doesn't matter if that it's not a definite concussion. So in other words, the person doesn't have to lose consciousness. They don't have to be knocked out. It's just that the medics have to judge that there is a likelihood that the person is concussed.
Yeah.
And that brings in an unintended consequence, an unintended overlap of the rules. And just to illustrate for people who are looking at home, I've taken, this is a quarterfinal match between James Toot in red and Theo Lutz in blue from Norway. And I've put in the 3 head contacts that occurred in the match. So that was the first one. So we just have a flick. We have a second flick here. Nice and snappy, left leg over the shoulder. And this is the third one where Theo is turned and he gets, again, snappy front leg, but this time connecting with the jaw. So you can see Theo's hit the ground fairly hard there. Chances are he's probably lost consciousness on the way down and he's hit his head. Like, this is absolutely not me talking about the referee who's doing nothing wrong, Theo who's doing nothing wrong, James who's doing nothing wrong. But the interaction of the rules has meant Theo's been unable to continue from this. Because there's a suspected concussion, and James, who at this point in the match, it's worth saying, has no fouls, is disqualified, and we have an empty semi-final. So the winner of one of the other quarterfinals progressed straight to final from here.
It is a shame because, like, it's what we said earlier. It's pulling people back again from what we want.
Yeah.
And, like, I think Theo will be the first person to admit that, like, by him turning there, he almost went into it himself.
Oh, yeah. Theo was not looking for James to be disqualified here. This is, to be 100% clear, this isn't us calling out Norway, this isn't us calling out the referees or the tournament. This is just a case of
the rule itself.
The rule as it stands right now is overlapping in an unintended way, I think, and the consequences of that are a competitor who's not doing anything wrong, but his opponent is unfortunate. He takes an action that leads to him getting or potentially concussed. And the other person then is judged, okay, well, you're responsible for that shot. Like, there's a lot of things that can mitigate those circumstances, and really for that was just the one thing from this tournament that we'll definitely want to feed back to the tournament umpire committee, that look, this is new. We're learning as we go with this new concussion policy, and how it interacts with this rule is potentially challenging and detrimental to the sport. So we need to have a look at that. Now, as I said, the rule was in there for a very simple reason in the beginning. If you knock somebody out, you could get a minus point previously, but you wouldn't be disqualified. And so there was kind of half an incentive to knock somebody out, because if you could afford the minus point, you were going to get through to the next round without having to finish the match. So it kind of worked out better for you. So they introduced T39. So, you know, and initially it was kind of focused on the person being knocked out or, you know, unconscious, knocked out, unable to continue. And if you were negligently responsible for that, so you threw the heavy shot that knocked the person out, you'd be disqualified. So now there's no incentive to go hard, you know, to try and knock the person out. It just kind of overlaps in an unfortunate way with this at the moment. So, yeah.
I think so. And it needs to be looked at because there are people who are on the unfortunate side of it, and it's impacting maybe their potential of wanting to continue in the sport as well, because there have been people before who have thought about, okay, maybe this is my last time. And maybe emotions are high in the moment as well. So it is something that's impacting people negatively. We want to keep the safety of the competitors up as number one, and that's the most important thing. But we also need to have a look at people that are kind of getting the unfair end of the stick.
It's balancing the safety of the competitor with the integrity of the sport, I suppose. Yeah. So, yeah. But like, if I was going to go and talk about some things from this tournament as an overall perspective, having been there, it's one of the best locations we've ever been in. You know, for just the whole experience in and around the tournament was excellent. The hotel was excellent. Food was excellent. Distance to the venue, great. Venue was very small, but it was well managed, and you know, it didn't, you know, the days ran very efficiently, so there's, you know, no complaints to send towards the, you know, the Croatian organisers. They did a great job. It was really enjoyable from a visitor perspective, and I think it's actually worth us putting a little bit of time into a video to highlight the good refereeing, because we've had plenty of opportunities to highlight the negatives. There was some really good refereeing that let the matches flow, and it would be good to highlight that, I think, as well. But in general, you know, like any competitive event, there are highs and lows. It's an emotional roller coaster. Not everything goes your way. The champions go out in the first round. You know, you get your unexpected. You know, we talk about Latvia in the 70s. You know, two unexpected semi-finalists, semi-finalists and finalists. You know, really, 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 you know, excellent fighters and unexpected from our perspective. So they cause some upsets. I mean, that's sport, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, so speaking of upsets, will we get stuck into some of the predictions that we had a look at in the run-up to the championships?
Okay, so what we'll do, we'll have a look at the predictions that were made, and we want to kind of maybe highlight where we can the people who made the best guesses. So looking at the team, we had John Riley, potentially, it's a very Irish name, you know, we're not too sure, but John Riley, you know, made the top prediction there.
12 of 13.
12 of 13. Very, very impressive. Picked Poland, Ireland, Germany, Poland, Ireland, Sweden. So he got the top four bang on. So you can't really ask more of a prediction than that. So fair play to you. Myself and Richie did not do quite as well on that one. We were a little further down the pecking order. But
that's me in second, no?
Were you second on? You were second on team. You were, yeah. Okay, so I did. This was my worst. I absolutely tanked this one. I think I finished bottom of the pile. So
I said to you earlier, I think Sweden are always a solid bet. They always pull out the semi-final, to be fair to them.
And my kind of outside bet of Spain to beat Poland and progress to final definitely cost me there. So Spain, you're going to have to do me right next time. So we'll see how it goes. Moving on to the 85 senior male. Quite a few people predicted the ultimate winner of it. But Mike Fosh, I believe, finished with the best combination there. So for our leaderboards, the amount of correct results was one part of it, but if you're predicting correct results in later rounds, they count for a little bit more as well. So a lot
of people going with Alameen there, who to be fair to him, he was very, very solid this championships after coming back from some injuries. So to be fair to him, it would have been great to see himself and Camille, and unfortunately he had a knee injury of his own, ironically,
in the first round.
So I'm sure we'll see that match soon. It'll be a cracker.
Yeah, could be good. Certainly the guys are lining themselves up for it, so it'll be nice. This is the minus 70 senior male then as well, and you can see that we all got it upset. So the winning score is Jack Lobbin from Scotland, so with 12 out of 22 predictions correct. Nice. So we were all horribly wrong. And
I think the Latvians threw a few spanners in the works.
Yeah, and well done to both Latvian competitors and their performance, and for proving us all wrong. And we did say that before the competition started. If you think we were wrong, go and show us, prove us wrong. And in fairness, both Latvians, whether they knew it or not, were definitely busy proving us wrong on this one. and some
I think
really,
Timothy
really good
Boss, great to
fighters.
see him back again because he had a couple of, let's say, unlucky championships.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see him in there and putting some good standard to the fore as well. So good to see him on top step.
Yeah, really, really good. The one that most people got close on, you can see how many were on 15 out of 19 there. This was the 62 senior females. So the big difference there is how well did you predict the who'd make final, and we can see in that one that was your good self topping the poll there. So
you're gonna have to start up a bookies.
Yeah, so as you backed Sarah, so that went a little wrong from semi-final, but you got the top 4 correct, and you put Sam in the final, which compared to myself, I have the same top 4, but I had neither of the finalists correct, so that dropped me down there. So, but I think for that many people to get most of the matches right, I think the division is well understood is probably the best way to put that.
No, a very solid division.
And I'll talk about another solid division with absolutely awesome fighters in it. This minus 50. And that was probably my best or one of my better finishes on it. So up in second place there. But Jeremy
enjoyed this one, some great matches.
Super matches and some good upsets as well and that kind of thing. Yeah. So, I think it went very, very well. So both myself and Jeremy backing Spain carried us a little bit further, I think, and became the difference maker in that one. Olivia Podvysotska, anyone who was backing her after her last Europeans performance got some purchase on that as well. But Katie going out in the semi-final, definitely. Those of us who were backing Katie, that certainly cost us. Izzy losing out against Taylor Smith.
Can't knock that.
You can't knock Izzy backing herself. And maybe a surprise exit in the second round against Taylor, but Taylor was certainly showing the potential to do this. So, yeah. But I think, an absolutely fantastic division and very, very exciting to watch.
Yeah. And there was a couple of people went up and down divisions as well, so we might have a look at some good divisions, but I think one of those from 62 to 68 was Mira. Really well. She took that one quite, and I think she actually performed really, really well, and might actually suit her that style more than 62s potentially. So, some other nice ones as well. You have looking at the 68s there as well. We have Adelina, who's been up there for a while now.
Yeah.
Another maybe upset would be Lindsay going out a little bit earlier.
Yeah, didn't really get started, and but I think she's definitely one that you'll see coming forward. Zuzana Gajawa not making it through as well. Maybe it was a little bit of an upset for me in that one. I thought she'd go a little further.
Yeah.
Even Nicolette Mazai from Hungary is very often up and around that mix. So take nothing away from the girls that have gone through. They were fantastic. They did their job very, very well. And I think
see Latvia up there again with Anna. I think the standard of the Latvians has actually come up a nice little bit, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we have a new group, and there's definitely a few very competitive. I think they've only about 6 on the team, so but really good performances to be taking 3-4 medals out of 6 or 7 competitors. Really, really strong. So we've looked at some of these. So this was the 56s. I think a lot of us would have backed Katrina to be the one to end up coming out on top on this one. So
it's our €50 now.
Yeah, no disappointment in that one, and she looked very strong. So she's the one to take off the top of the castle going forward, I suppose. Just going up the weights, we'll be jumping male to female as we go, but the 57 senior male, we both had a sneaky punt on Yasin, I think. And
I was very impressed with Yasin. I think he was very, very solid, and I think himself and Vitaly are going to be setting themselves up for a cracker of a match once they can get together and compete, hopefully at the World Cup. That'll be a cracker.
And there were some good competitive matches the way through. That a lot of the matches were quite close, but I thought that the range that Yasin had was really quite impressive. The 63 males we spoke about quite a bit. Ziga just up from silver in the last Euro, has been disqualified in the final, but looking very dominant at that time and was really strong again, really excellent in this one.
And shout out to Jamie, who is Adrian's student, getting to the final there as well. So he's a solid campaigner. You can't knock him down. He's always thereabouts.
That's his it's his third senior silver at Euros. So 2 at 57 and now 1 at 63. Solid. So it's a nice one. And it's Tricky there as well, just up from junior. So really, really strong performance there.
That was a juicy semi-final as well with himself and Jamie coming down to the wire. So if you haven't seen that, maybe check out the live stream.
Really exciting stuff, and a few interesting people in this division as well. I don't know if Daniel Hassanpour is going to be able to stay in that. He's a very tall boy. He was sparring Ziga there. He's a very, very tall boy. And of course we'd expect Michael McRoberts to be in there and doing the business in the future as well. Yeah, for sure. Looking at the let's see, 75. So female 75s. Ursha's done it again.
Yeah, Ursha is quite solid in there. She's pulling a couple of medals there now. I think between that and Waco, she has a nice medal collection at home. I don't know if she's going to have much more space. So she's the queen of the 75s.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not that she always wins, but she always is in the medals. I think is that she always gives herself the chance to win. So again, very impressive stuff. We had a nice division for Ireland here, with Bartosz stepping out and eventually taking it. He had a tough run because of the disqualification of Tino Kivaranta in his quarter-final, which left an empty semi-final for Sam Walsh. And so Bartosz ended up doing 3 fights in a row. And definitely looked at, by the time that is not a final you need to go back and watch for the highlight reels. It's he's wrecked, and it does show.
But there's some top guys there, Adrian, in the 78s. It's like when looking at all those names there, like Camille, Cristobal, Alejandro. Like there's some guys there, Ahmed even, like who could all push that. Marcin, who was very solid in the last Euros. Like that's a nice stacked division there, and I think on their day, any of those guys can really do well and take that.
Oh, definitely. And Yuko Holman was sparring very, very well also, and again, very close fight, nail biter with Bartosz as well. So yeah, it's a very interesting division. Just looking at the senior female team then as well, because we haven't mentioned that. The Polish have found their way to the top yet again. It's that strength in depth, so not always all of the top competitors as in the medal, the gold medal winners, but the depth of the team, the strength of the team is still, almost as it always was. It's very, very, very strong. Slovenia looked excellent this time as well. Ireland were, as such, only 5 fighters and 2 50s and a 56, so quite light. And Katie had torn her hamstring by the time we got to the final, or to the team sparring. So quite a difficult one. So really delighted that the girls managed to get bronze. But I think it's really, really strong to see 9 female teams in the team sparring, and it's just to see now, who's going to be able to develop and maintain the depth to topple Poland on that one.
Yeah, I think they've been thereabouts now for a long time, haven't they? They have a really solid squad, so it's good to see Slovenia coming through as well. I think they did really well overall, the Slovenian crew.
Yeah, for sure.
Across the board, junior, senior, male and female. So they're back in there again. So yeah, it was like a good Euros for them.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, for me, it felt, compared to being in Spain, where you were very conscious that there was a lot of teams that were just a little bit under strength and, very much back from COVID. Some people weren't, back training all that long, only a couple of months. This felt like any Euros has ever felt before, in terms of, the depth of competition. The spread of the medals was excellent, with the only exception being Romania dominated Ring 5, which was the special technique and power. And, they were very dominant over there and took an awful lot of medals. Hats off to them. They've done a great job with it. And, the coaching there has, paid dividends for years on special and power, but they just seem to be cementing their position there. And if we're to take them off the top, they finish top of the table. And if anyone's going to take them off the top of that table, we've got to steal 1 or 2 of those gold medals off them in the special power ring, because there just won't be enough to do it because of how well spread the other divisions are. So
Because the sparring is really kind of like there's lots of teams who are there. And I think the Norwegians are arguably the most solid in the patterns.
I've got something for you on this, because I said the same thing to Andres Jenstad when I was over there, and he said, yes, we're placing the top one, but it's more diverse than maybe you're realizing. And then he went and did the research, and he sent me on the 21 countries had taken medals on day one. So the pattern medals were very spread. I think 18 medals 18 different countries took medals in pattern. So we had like a gold for Romania, there was a gold for Ukraine, there was there was quite a spread. So shout out to Andres for calling me out on that and being right. So apparently patterns is in a very healthy place as well as sparring in terms of the diversity of countries that are winning medals. So when you look at it, with Ireland with 4 medals, you had Italy with 6, you had Slovenia with 6, you had I think it was you'd Poland with 8, and when you look at the spread of medals, it's not like there was a landslide other than the probably 9 or 10 gold medals that were taken by Romanian Special Power. Big thing that we have to ask for the next one, we go to Romania, challenging because they were already doing so well in Special Power, but we go to Romania, and potentially we also have we will have all of these new divisions in as well with the pre-junior categories. So what impact is that going to have? Will that throw the medal table up in the air? I think it's jury's out until we see what happens.
Yeah, let's see on that. But I think on the sparring side of things, we see, as we said, the Slovenians doing well, and the likes of Timothy Boss. I think that's also linked up to the flow that was allowed that we mentioned earlier. So if you think of those fighters that they have a good natural flow to them, being able to bring some intensity and some controlled chaos. So I think that's good for the sport overall, especially on the sparring side.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's us for our summary of the Euros that was just gone. But of course, we're going to go and look back at the more exciting divisions. Over the next few weeks, junior and senior, we'll pick out some of the divisions to review, look at some of the highlights, focus on 1 or 2 key matches, and get in depth a little bit. So if there's ones that you'd like us to start with, if you just can't wait to see what the 85 senior males got up to, for example, make sure you let us know that in the comments, and we'll figure out which one we're going to start with next week.
Yeah, looking forward to that. So make sure you subscribe if you haven't, and we'll catch you next week.
Bye now.